todos. Muchas gracias por darme la oportunidad de hablar en este importante evento. Es un honor para mí. Me gustaría poder estar ahí en persona. Desgraciadamente no ha sido posible debido a obligaciones docentes. Como habrán adivinado por mi pronunciación, no hablo español. Improviso porque soy italiana y luego me ayudan los traductores en línea. De ahí que vaya a continuar esta presentación en inglés. So good morning, everybody. I tried my best to give you a greeting as if I was there, but yeah, my hope is that your next 2 days of work will really move us forward on this important agenda of improving women's financial inclusion. I am now going to share my screen, and I would please ask you to confirm whether you're seeing the full screen version of this presentation. I hope so. So I will continue. Okay, thank you very much. So I want to start by discussing a few facts about women's access to financial products and services. We know that these services are crucial to manage household as well as business finances. And we also know that at the global level, about 72% of men own a bank account as compared to 65% of women. What is important is to acknowledge that the barriers that women face in accessing financial services are significantly higher. These are related to limited decision-making power within the household, domestic responsibilities that might prevent them from devoting enough time and resources to being financially involved, differences in financial literacy, products that are not well catered to women, as well as legal barriers. And on your right side, you see in this graph that these differences in account ownership are pretty much consistent across all of Central America, with the exception of Belize. In the other countries, women have a much lower probability of owning a bank account. So even when they can access financial services, we see that women often do not control those financial resources. And there are norms that often govern what a woman is expected to do, as well as household dynamics that limit women's ability to maintain control over financial services such as credit and savings. And I will give you more examples of this during the talk. Also, women may face pressures from others to use services in a way that do not improve their own business and their own empowerment, but that serve some other goals. And we know how, just a few days ago, the Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded to Claudia Golding for her work on women's economic participation, empowerment, labor market outcomes. And so this, I think, really, the theme of this workshop really falls at a time where it is key to the economic growth and development agenda to improve women's conditions. So the global evidence that we have can be something very useful for policymakers as well as for the private sector in helping design products, services that produce meaningful change. What do I mean by global evidence? I mean evidence that we can consider reliable because it serves, it employs methodologies that allow us to disentangle causal impact. So here I want to discuss with you one of these methodologies. It's not the only one. It's the one that these days we use whenever possible because it's the closest to clean experiments as we see them in the hard sciences. And it's something that, for example, the Poverty Action Lab, JPA, has been promoting in dialogue with policymakers for many years. This is the use of randomized controlled trials. And the idea is that we start from a population that comprises very diverse individuals. They could be men, women, high or low socioeconomic status. And then we are considering offering a product, let's say a financial product, the possibility to open a bank account to these individuals. Now, suppose that we don't do anything, we just give this possibility, and we then compare the economic outcomes of women who chose to open the bank account and women who chose not to open it. And then we say, the effect of bank accounts is really a significant growth in women's wages and employment rates, and this is great. And we would be tempted to do this comparison because that's something that we can do most of the time with the data available. We often have data on clients, and we could collect data on non-clients. What is the problem with this approach is that the reason certain women chose to open the bank account might be that they are actually more entrepreneurial, or that they face less obstacles back home from their spouses or family members. And so when we go and compare those two groups, we're evaluating together the impact of the service as well as the impact of these intrinsic differences in the people who take up financial products. Suppose that instead we decide to randomize who gets offered the possibility to open a bank account, okay? So in this case, when we randomize, we're gonna have some of the women with these high entrepreneurial skills ending up in the intervention group. That's the one who was offered the possibility of opening the bank account. And the comparison group will still include some of those highly motivated women. Why? Because given that it was a lottery, different types of people will fall in equal proportions in the two groups. At this point, if we implement this intervention and then go back to measure economic outcomes, we're going to have that in the comparison group, if we see, say, a growth in business profits, which is this green bar on the bottom, we can attribute it to individual characteristics. We didn't do anything with them. We didn't offer the bank account. In the intervention group, if we see higher profits, we know that on top of the individual characteristics, we had the effect of the program. And so this difference that we have between the intervention group and the comparison group is really something that we can confidently attribute to the offer that we made of those financial products, okay? And so in this sense, the fact that we randomized and that we have a fully comparable set of individuals allows us to give a causal interpretation. And once we can know that the result is really the effect of what we designed, we can then, scale that intervention or modify the design. Okay, and this approach has been, as I mentioned, taken by JPAL as well as other networks that involve really a global community of researchers from over, from a number. Here you see just a few of the institutions involved. But what's very valuable, in my view, is that over these years, researchers like myself who are, academics, we teach, we try to produce studies that are at the frontier of economic research, really partner closely with policymakers so that what is done on the ground to change people's lives can be evaluated. Now, this, as I mentioned, is has resulted in an immense amount of knowledge being produced. Here you see the countries where interventions have been evaluated, and the different colors of these dots represent different sectors of interventions. Today, let's try to take stock of this knowledge and try to see what the specific studies that looked at financial resources have told us and have taught us on women's access. So first of all, we cannot say that just giving access improves income or agency. There have been several studies and meta-analysis, and we found that across 10 different studies, access to microcredit, savings groups, or business grants had mixed effects. There was some impact on women's business creation, employment, and income generation, but often this was limited. What was found is that it did, in most of the cases, help to smooth consumption and mitigate risk. So from the point of view of helping cope with income shocks, these services are crucial. It's quite heterogeneous, the extent to which they also lead to business growth and long-term, employment opportunities. And one message that keeps coming out of these studies is that if you think that just giving access to financial resources is going to improve agency per se, that's not enough. In fact, the admittedly rough indicators of household decision-making power that we have shown limited impacts. So here you see some, summary table where we see what different studies from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Ethiopia, India, Mexico, Mongolia, Morocco, all done with a very similar methodological approach, similar products, microfinance products. And this, when you see those green arrows, it means that there's been a significant improvement in those variables. When you see a red arrow, it means that actually there's been a decrease, and every other cell means that there's no statistically significant impact. So as you see, there's increase in business assets, inventory, but in some business ownership. But when you think about business profits or household income, the impacts are very limited. And so let's try to understand why, because this really runs counter much of the, traditional evidence that we had learned about on microcredit, and that was produced with different methodologies, possibly conflating those elements of, who is it that takes up a microcredit program, how motivated they are, with the benefit of the program itself. So one important thing to be aware is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. And so when we offer a product, we need to think who is going to benefit from this product. And many studies have shown that intra-household dynamics, so the balance of power within the household and the norms about whether women should work outside the home for pay, these impact the effect of giving resources to women. For example, in Ghana and Sri Lanka, cash grants were given. In Uganda, cash grants and loans were given together with credit, similar in India. And what happens here is that often the effect of these resources end up only benefiting women who have favorable intra-household conditions. In Uganda, for example, they found that when they gave this bundled support for business creation, women with access to the program doubled their earnings, but the effect was not there among those women who said that their partners did not treat them well. So there was an element in which the approval of the partner was somehow needed for the woman to be able to take profit of this product. Another example, which I find really interesting, is the use of ATM cards. And we know that ATM cards for us are an unambiguously good thing, right? They decrease transaction fees. Yet we need to think in a setting where there are differences in objectives possibly between members of the household. What these ATM cards are going to do is give you more flexibility in accessing your savings, but also give other people more flexibility. In what sense? There was this study by Simone Shanner in Western Kenya, where households were given the opportunity to open up to 3 bank accounts, either in the husband's name or in the wife's name or in both names, okay? And then a random sample of these households was also offered a free ATM card. Now, what the ATM card did was that among men, because transaction costs went down, the use of savings account increased a lot. It increased by something like 70%, okay? So this is what we would all expect. What happened to women? Nothing like that. No increase in accounts owned solely by women. Why? Because actually the fact of not having an ATM card and saying, look, if you want me to take out money out of my account, I need to travel to the bank, I need to pay a transaction fee. This was a way in which women had an argument that they could use against their husbands to say, sorry, I cannot give you money from my savings account. It's too costly, it's too complicated. Once the ATM card became free, that limited the way in which women could protect their accounts. And this is something really important because if we don't keep these norms and these intra-household aspects in mind, we would go with this more standard, simplistic interpretation of what this financial product is going to do. Another example is giving microcredit with grace periods, which again, it's giving more flexibility to people. And it's something that's been, argued can really help with the repayment schedules and keeping defaults very low. But this in India has been shown to increase men's profits, but not women's, okay? Zero effect of women business profits. And what was fascinating is that if there was a household with only one woman, then men and women businesses had similar returns to capital. So you're giving them these loans, and whether it's given to a woman or to a man, the profits go up in the same rate. Why? Because there's only one woman. So when I give the business, so when I give the loan to a woman, the money is invested in that business. But if there was a household with multiple businesses, so let's say the husband had a business and the woman had a business, then in those households, when we calculate the returns to capital, how much did this loan produce in terms of returns, that those households showed much lower returns for women. Why? Because some of those loans that should have gone to the woman's business were actually redirected to the husband's business. Again, similar results in Sri Lanka, in Ghana. So it's important to find ways to keep the money that goes to women under the control of the women. So smart product design is a way in which we can try to help, okay? It's not the only way. I personally strongly believe that we should also find solutions to change the overall environment, the norms, and the empowerment at a higher level. But in the meanwhile, given that these changes are maybe slower to occur, let's think about how these smart design features can help. So for example, in India, digital loan disbursements have been shown to be very useful. Why? Because you deposit the loan directly into a private mobile money account. And this allows the woman to keep control, possibly alleviate, to share the loan with the family because it's directly deposited on her account. increases control over the loan, and it leads to about 15% increase in profits and 11% increases in the value of their business. Another example comes from different product design. For example, offering in the Philippines, offering commitment saving accounts, which are accounts where you sign a contract that until you reach a certain level of savings, nobody can withdraw money from that account. And this helped women basically protect their savings. They had an argument, sorry, my account doesn't allow me to withdraw money. In other cases, depositing wages directly to the woman's bank account and training women on the benefits of account ownership led to more higher labor force participation and greater engagement in making purchases. This was a study on India. And finally, when you distribute funds, and this was a study in Niger, they compared mobile payments that were given through cash transfers to digital payments. And they found that the digital payments actually increased women's mobility. So again, these digital services are a very promising venue for women's control of resources and of their own finances. So moving forward, we have reliable evidence that can be used to inform the design of interventions, of products, and of services that produce meaningful change. It's not enough to give access. And one likely reason is that there are complex gender dynamics that moderate the effect of these products. But because we can help women gain control over these resources by smart product design, I think you and the participants in these events over the coming days really have an opportunity to compare experiences, to think about innovations, and then, if interested, to engage with the research community, to work together to constantly evaluate and improve the effectiveness. And with this, I want to thank you. I would love to learn about your work and initiatives that in this domain and in general in the domain of women empowerment in Central America. And thank you very much.